Hello, welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Raja Saroj Sahib, and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi says the prevention of a humanitarian and economic crisis in Afghanistan is a key priority. He was addressing a virtual meeting of foreign ministers of China, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Iran and Turkmenistan a day after Taliban declared an interim government. Qureshi stressed the need for the international community to stay engaged with the Afghan people at the critical juncture. In his address, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the US and its allies have more of a duty to aid Afghanistan than any other country. The US says it is concerned by the affiliations and track records of some of the members of the Afghan caretaker government. In a statement, State Department spokesperson Ned Price said the US will judge the Taliban by their actions, not words, while China says it is ready to maintain communication with the leaders of the new Afghan government. Earlier, Qatar said the Taliban have demonstrated pragmatism and they are Afghanistan's de facto rulers. In Ethiopia, officials say Tigray rebels fighting government forces in the country's north killed 120 civilians earlier this month. They said the victims were farmers. At least 41 people have been killed and 80 others injured in a fire that broke out at a prison in Indonesia's Bulletin province. Authorities say an investigation is underway to find the cause of the fire. That's all for the headlines. We'll be right back with the details in just a bit. Welcome back. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi says the prevention of a humanitarian economic crisis in Afghanistan is a key priority. He was addressing a virtual meeting of foreign ministers of China, Iran, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan to discuss the latest situation in Afghanistan. Qureshi stressed the need for the international community to stay engaged with the Afghan people at the critical juncture. The foreign minister pointed out that Afghanistan's access to its financial resources would be pivotal in preventing an economic collapse. In his address, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the US and its allies have more of a duty to aid Afghanistan than any other country. Chaired by Qureshi, the virtual meeting held on the request of Pakistan. The US says it is concerned by the affiliations and track records of some of the members of the Afghan caretaker government. In a statement, State Department spokesperson Ned Price said the US will judge the Taliban by their actions, not words. As soon as the Taliban announced the interim government, mixed reactions from the world started to pour in. The US said it expects the Taliban will ensure the Afghan soil is not used to threaten any countries. Ned Price said Washington will continue to hold the Taliban to their commitments to allow safe passage out of Afghanistan, while China said it is ready to maintain communication with the leaders of the new Afghan government. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin termed the establishment of caretaker setup a necessary step in reconstruction. Earlier, Qatar said the Taliban have demonstrated pragmatism and they are Afghanistan's de facto rulers. Qatari Assistant Foreign Minister Lulwa Al-Khatar said it will be up to the Afghans to determine their future, not the international community. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said he will closely follow the new government's future course. And Pakistan says it is hosting a virtual meeting with countries neighboring Afghanistan to discuss the future situation over there. Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi will preside over the meeting for a shared objective of peaceful Afghanistan. For more on this, we're joined by former Ambassador Shazad Chaudhry with us. Thank you very much for your time, sir. First question, the West has expressed deep concerns over the Taliban's interim government for not being inclusive and over some members in it. Do you think it's a good start for the Taliban's political future?
Well, the political future of Taliban, I guess, is going to be pretty difficult for them. It's not an easy way ahead for them, surely, because a large part of the world, especially the Western world, will continue to indicate and show their speculative appreciation, if at all, of the Taliban government. Clearly, their first effort will be to somehow derail the Taliban government and prove to the world that the Taliban are not worthy successors to the government that was there before the dislodging of it of the Ghani government. So I think that sort of approach by the Western countries will continue, where they will continue to show or suspect the credentials of the Taliban. So I don't think it's going to be easy for them in terms of the political journey forward.
All right, now we see a clear differences between the approach of the US, its Western allies, and China and Russia towards the Taliban. Do you see this complicating the situation in Afghanistan?
Well, it's not going to be complicating, but like I said, I mean, the West was there for a long time. That is, the US and the NATO were there for a long time, 20 years, and they fought a very long war and then decided to quit. And as they leave the area, and despite the fact that President Biden says that they no more have any vital national interest in Afghanistan, I'm sure it's merely just exiting Afghanistan with quite a bit of a question mark hanging on their on the final consequences of the war, 20-year war, will push them to the fact that they will not be taking very pleasantly towards any Taliban setup which is there, of course, which has taken shape now. So China and Russia, which have always looked at the fact that the US was a foreign force in the region, it didn't belong to the region, and they had obviously come and occupied a sovereign country. So, and it was a source of a lot of disturbance in the region. So I think that instability seemingly has gone away. So China and Russia, we look at it from a positive point of view. The US and its allies will continue to be very, very speculative about the fact and apprehensive about the state of Afghanistan and the rule of Taliban. So this kind of impressions will be competitive in nature, but whether they take a practical shape is yet to be seen. And I don't think it will be. It will worsen down to a point where another proxy kind of engagement takes place between China, Russia, and on the other side the US and allies. So while the discomfort will be there, but I don't think it's going to be. It's going to worsen down to the fact of an active proxy engagement.
All right. Now, as much as 80% of Afghanistan's budget comes from the international community, and the Taliban can hardly afford isolation given the economic crisis, how will the Taliban maintain a balance between their ideology and the expectations of the Western countries?
Well, I mean, obviously the Taliban have stated and they are keen to go along with the rest of the world. So their first priority is to be acceptable to the world at large. And when that is their priority and that is their concern as well, so I can imagine that they will surely modify their own way of looking at how the constitution or the way of life or the way of dealing with the world will gradually emerge and evolve. So I think there shall be a change in the way that the Taliban will conduct themselves, and there will need to be a change in the way that the world will look at them. You really can't impose an order of any kind, whether it's religious or any kind of thing, from a Western perspective or a Western model of democracy. Democracy has many variations, so which ones the Taliban or the Afghans tend to choose will be for them to decide. And it, anyway, doesn't behove us, any one of us on the outside, to try and impose a particular or a specific democratic model to the Afghan situation.
Okay, thank you for joining Indus News. For more on this, we're joined by Senator Sitara Ayus from Islamabad. Thank you for your time. Regional stakeholders like China have reacted positively to the new government in Kabul. What do you think would be the future of the Taliban's relation with the US and its allies in the coming days?
Well, I think that China China, before the Taliban took over control of Kabul, China started diplomatic ties with them, and by hosting a group of their political leadership. And in future also, China will be there with very huge investment. And personally, I feel that they already started that, and they will seek to revive business venture inside Afghanistan. And as we all know, that Afghan economy is fragile and highly dependent on foreign aid, which we know that it's very little now, and they are looking for investment, and the Chinese will be welcomed by them. But at the same time, then the U.S. will also be there, because they simply cannot leave Afghanistan. They are allies also, and U.S. also. They will be present in Afghanistan in some way or another, and on the relationship of with the U.S., it depends. Like let's see that what will be the after this cabinet, what will be the reaction of U.S. and their allies, and then the Taliban. So now we are just hearing their press conferences and everything, but now after this their interim government, now it's the time to take action. So let's see that what their policy will be towards U.S. and the other allies, and who are going to to come forward and to work with the Taliban. We can see that the world is changing. First, regarding Taliban, like the UK and other countries, now you can see some soft corner for their government. When they talk about them, it is not that much hard, which it was before. So it is now totally depending on the Taliban future policy towards the U.S. But of course, U.S. will be there in one shape or another.
All right, Mr. Tara, in their recent statements, Taliban have pledged to bring improvement in the areas of women's rights and technology. How do you think would their new government be different from the past one in these domains?
Again, I will say that from their spokesperson and from their political leadership, what we are hearing is very positive. As the issue of women is important, and we all know that. And the Taliban presses again and again, they said that women can continue working in Afghan government, and recently they added that they will give respect despite history of operations, and the political leadership strongly they came up with the statement that they are not going to be that there will be no discrimination against women, and the women, of course, within the framework of Islam, they can work. But now the thing is that now one has to look at the broad range, and interpretation really matters. That what they are saying, that within the framework of Islam, now we will see that after the cabinet, what do they mean? Because we as a Muslim, we know that Islam gives rights to women and right to work, and if they really want to give that rights, then fine. But we cannot say right now that what it will be. As I said, that interpretation really matters. And I again, from their so far after they took over Kabul, they are very positive, and it seems that they are different from their government will be different from the last government. But now in future, let's see that what they are saying, if their actions are also the same, if they are going to act on the same things what they are telling the world. But I feel that this time they will be, because they have no other choice. The world is everyone. If you go to international media and if you watch anywhere, if the print media, the other media, it's full of Taliban. So they have a pressure also on them. So hopefully that this time they will be different.
Okay, now how do you think this new government in Kabul will affect Islamabad's future aspirations of rebuilding the former FATA and extending CPAC to Central Asia?
Beyond Afghanistan borders, its neighbors will feel the most immediate impact. As Pakistan has a long border, and we had in the past, we faced violent extremism in Pakistan due to instability in Afghanistan. So this time we hope that, as the Prime Minister said, and again we all hope that there will be a stable government in Afghanistan, which will be economically also will help Pakistan. And in the past, when there was a lot of human suffering and the terrorism and the civilian population affected a lot, especially our bordering areas, our ex-FATA areas. So this time we are hopeful that if there is a stable government, at least we will not face the terrorism. And the other issue which we feel that is the refugees influx. So that can also be one of the impact on our bordering areas. These are the things which we feel that there will be if there is no stability. And we are hearing again and again that Pakistan is supporting Taliban. Pakistan is... In fact, we are not supporting anyone. We are supporting ourselves. We are supporting ourselves in a sense that if there is a stable government there, we will not face all the past what we faced, the terrorism, the refugees, and the impact on our own areas. Our young civilians and women, children, they died because of that terrorist attacks. So maybe there will be the attacks and the terrorism can be minimized if there is a stable government over there. So we are very hopeful. We are very positive, but at the same time, we have to prepare ourselves for the worst also, because still the things are not very clear in Afghanistan.
All right, Ms. Sitara Ayus, thank you for joining Indus News. Pakistan has strongly rejected Indian media reports that it helped the Taliban in attack on Panjshir. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said the Indian media used a video game to prove Islamabad's involvement in the conflict. In an interview, Fawad termed the Indian reports as a pack of lies. He also denied that ISI chief Faiz Hamid's visited Kabul to help shape Afghanistan's new government. Fawad said in absence of a formal government, intelligence networks create an informal framework to discuss impending issues. He said Pakistan has some deep issues with Afghanistan, including the expansion of ISIS and the refugees. He said Islamabad's engagement enabled the US-Taliban negotiations and then helped in the evacuations of thousands of people from Kabul. The minister said the world community has already appreciated these efforts. EU Ambassador Anderilla Kaminara has lauded Pakistan's positive role in Afghanistan and overall regional peace and stability. He was speaking to Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Rawalpindi. According to the military's media wing, the two discussed the latest development in the war-torn country and other matters of mutual interest. The Army Chief said Pakistan looks forward to enhancing mutually beneficial ties with the European Union. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Iran says no one can pressurize it to halt its nuclear activities since the other parties to the 2015 deal have not fulfilled their obligations. Iran's IAEA envoy says the pact with the UN watchdog on monitoring activities has already expired. Talking to reporters, Kazem Garibabadi said the agency must maintain professionalism and neutrality. He also called on the watchdog to refrain from what can be termed as politically motivated reports. This comes after International Atomic Energy Agency chided Iran for allegedly failing to explain uranium traces found at 3 undeclared sites. The agency said Iran's stockpile of 60% enriched uranium has now reached 10 kilograms. The Pakistani nation is observing Navy Day today to commemorate the iconic sacrifices of martyrs of 1965 war with India. In a message, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Mohammad Amjad Khan Niazi paid homage to the martyrs and brave heroes of the war. He reiterated Pakistan Navy's resolve to defend the motherland till the end. On the 8th of September 1965, Pakistan Navy bombarded the Indian port of Dwarka during Operation Somnath. The swift and precise action destroyed important shore installations, including an Indian radar station. Navy Day is also in commemoration of the PN Lone submarine, Ghazi's historic achievement in 1965. It reigned supreme and remained unchallenged at the sea throughout the war. In the Indian state of Haryana, farmers continue their renewed protests against 3 controversial laws after talks with the Karnal administration failed. The growers have started pitching tents outside a key government office in the district. Farm leaders have said that the sit-in will continue till their demands are met. Authorities imposed restrictions on gatherings and snapped internet services ahead of the protests. On 28 August, during a similar demonstration in Karnal, over 40 farmers were injured in the clashes with the police. The farmers are also demanding a murder case to be registered against a senior government official, Ayus Sinha. He instructed police officers to smash the heads of the farmers. Earlier, police used a water cannon on the protesting farmers as they marched towards the mini secretariat. The US says it does not condone violence on the solution to deal with the current crisis in Myanmar. A spokesperson for the US Department has called on all sides to remain peaceful. The spokesperson said Myanmar's worsening COVID-19 situation underscores the need for a peaceful environment. The British ambassador to Myanmar also called on all parties to engage in dialogue and support peaceful efforts to restore democracy. In a statement, he noted additional violence will harm vulnerable communities and risk COVID-19 and humanitarian aid. A day earlier, the acting president of the National Unity Government declared a nationwide state of emergency. The shadow government also called for revolt against the military rule. In Ethiopia, officials say Tigray rebels fighting government forces in the country's north killed 120 civilians earlier this month. They said the victims were farmers. A spokesperson for the Tigrayan forces did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The broke-out war, 10 months age, between Ethiopia's troops and forces loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which controls the Tigray region. Thousands have died and more than 2 million people have been forced to flee their homes. Mexico has registered more than 8,000 daily deaths from COVID-19 and nearly 16,000 new cases. Globally, the coronavirus death toll has exceeded 4.58 million, while the caseload is approaching 222 million. More in this report.
Surging infections, new variants, and unjust global distribution of vaccines continue to dampen the efforts of fighting the pandemic. In the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has warned against traveling to Sri Lanka, Jamaica, and Brunei. President Joe Biden is expected to present a 6-pronged strategy against the spread of the Delta variant and to increase vaccinations in the country. Meanwhile, a U.S. medical expert says the pandemic is far more likely to have come from nature than through a laboratory accident.
Modern virology labs around the world take extraordinary precautions for the security of their products, and the personal protective equipment for virologists working with potentially serious agents is very fastidious, and I think it would be very improbable that a lab accident were responsible for this release.
A Geneva-based global aid fund has warned that excess deaths from AIDS and tuberculosis in poor countries could even exceed those from the coronavirus itself amid the distorted healthcare system due to the pandemic. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has slammed richer nations for stockpiling vaccines as many underdeveloped countries struggle to get them. The organization's researchers say hoarding of vaccines, therapeutics, and other tools is not only immoral, but also prolonging the pandemic.
It is the hoarding of these materials. We saw it in the beginning of the pandemic with PPE. But this is not just unfair, it's not just immoral, it's prolonging the pandemic, and it is resulting in people dying. And I think we need to be blunt. I think we need to be very clear that this is prolonging the pandemic. We have tools. We have enough vaccine around the world. If we had used the vaccine doses that were available differently, we would be in a very different situation right now globally. But it's the same thing with PPE. It's the same thing with the therapeutics.
Meanwhile, India has reported 369 more deaths and nearly 3,800 new cases over the past 24 hours. Australia has locked down Sydney and Melbourne amid the latest outbreaks of the highly infectious Delta variant. The country's state of New South Wales reported nearly 1,500 new locally acquired cases, up from 1,220 a day earlier. Meanwhile, in Japan, a third man has died after taking the contaminated Moderna vaccine.
In Pakistan, coronavirus has claimed 83 more lives over the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the nationwide death toll has crossed 26,400. It said the virus infected more than 3,900 people overnight. The country's caseload has exceeded 1.19 million, while over 1,071,000 have recovered. Health officials say over 91,000 cases are active. Nearly 5,400 of them are critical. Pakistan has administered over 64.5 million COVID-19 shots to date. At least 41 people have been killed in a fire that broke out in a prison in Indonesia's Bulletin province. Authorities say 80 others are injured, while 8 of them have suffered severe burns. They say the incident at the Tangerang jail happened early in the morning when most inmates were asleep. Officials say the fire has been extinguished and investigation is underway to find the cause of the fire. According to government data, the prison in Tangerang housed more than 2,000 inmates, far exceeding its 600 capacity. Tropical cyclone Consan has brought strong winds and heavy rainfall to parts of the Philippines after making its first landfall in Hernani. At least 12 fishermen are missing in rough seas off the coast of province of Antique. Following the cyclone, low-lying roads of capital Manila were flooded. In a statement, the disaster control authorities said that the storm affected over 12,000 people in several provinces. The Philippines is frequently hit by storms with an average of 20 tropical cyclones affecting the country annually. In another story in Mexico, at least 17 patients have died after heavy rainfall caused flooding at a hospital in central Hidalgo state. Officials say a river burst in bank and water then cut the power supply in the hospital in the town of Tula. They say some of the victims were COVID-19 patients who were being treated with oxygen therapy. Rescue workers evacuated more than 40 other patients from the hospital. Authorities say about 2,000 houses were also damaged by the floods as per initial assessment. Meanwhile, a 7-magnitude earthquake has struck the country's southwest, killing at least one man who was crushed by a falling post. Officials say the tremor, which hit near the beach resort of Acapulco, pushed large boulders onto roads, causing power outages. At least 23 people, including 3 children, have been killed after a bus plunged into a cliff into central Bolivia. Officials say 13 others were also injured in an incident and were taken to the nearby hospitals. Police said the cause of the accident is being investigated. However, the driver tells brake failure to be the cause of the crash. A teen pilot has touched down in Costa Rica in her bid to become the youngest woman to fly solo around the globe. The 19-year-old Zara Rutherford took off from Western Belgium in her Shah ultralight aircraft. She seeks to win the title from Shasta West, who became the youngest woman to fly solo around the world at 30. Rutherford is looking to cover 51,000 kilometers. Her route will take about 3 months with stops in 52 countries. The British Belgian hopes her voyage will encourage more girls to study and work in science and spark their interest in aviation. Kuwait has started recycling more than 42 million old vehicle tires dumped in one of the world's largest tire graveyards. More in this report.
In a bid to tackle its waste problem, Kuwait recently moved the tires from the dump site to a new location at Al Salmi, where recycling efforts have begun. The original dump site was just 7 kilometers from a residential suburb, with the periodic fires releasing black smoke bothering the residents. The Al Khair group, which transported 25 million tires using up to 500 trucks a day, plans to open a factory to burn the tires through pyrolysis.
The tires are made of a base of rubber and black carbon. The technology we're going to bring to Kuwait is pyrolysis, through which we will be able to extract black carbon and oil, or what is called bunker oil, in order to be recycled and used as diesel or high-quality fuel. And the black carbon is used as a raw material.
At a plant run by EPSCO, Global General Trading employs sort and shred scrap tires before pressing the particles into flooring tiles. The recycling company says the EPSCO plant, which began operations in January 2021, can recycle up to 3 million tires a year.
The factory is helping society by cleaning up the dumped old tires and turning them into consumer products and other useful products that could be used elsewhere in the country. It also has many environmental and non-environmental benefits.
Scrap tires are a major environmental problem worldwide due to their bulk and the chemicals they can release. Kuwait's government hopes Al Salmi will become a tire recycling hub with more factories planned.
In business, European stocks have retreated after a choppy trading session in U.S. markets. Earlier, DAX in Frankfurt led the losses, dropping more than 1.25%. The pan-European stock 600 also shed over 8%. FTSE in London dipped just above 8%. Italy's FTSE MB and CAC 40 in Paris both slipped close to 8%. El Salvador has become the first country to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. The move has got the nation and the world debating the opportunities and dangers of cryptocurrency. Businesses will now be obliged, where possible, to accept the controversial digital coins as payment. Millions of people are expected to download the government's new digital wallet application. The app gives away $30 in Bitcoin to every citizen. Bitcoin fans around the world have been buying $30 worth of the coins to help boost the value of the volatile currency. Now it's time to have a look at the weather situation around the globe. That's all from the news studios. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.